Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 2023 Ordinary Council meeting. Council agenda briefing. I'm getting 1 week ahead of myself. We acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and their elders past and present. I request everyone to please turn off your mobile phones. I remind you the audio recording of the meeting proceedings and photography within the chamber is prohibited unless prior approval has been granted, and councillors and city officers are reminded to disclose any declarations of financial interests and interests affecting impartiality, and are requested to activate their microphones when addressing the meeting. So, welcome. Item 1 is the declaration of opening, and I declare this meeting open at 1 minute past 6 p.m. Items for council. Agenda items 2, 3, 6, 7, 8.1, 8.2, 9, 11, 13 and 14 will be dealt with at the Ordinary Council meeting to be held on 22 August 2023. That brings us to item 4, which is attendances. Item 4.1 is apologies. We've received an apology from Councillor Stephen Russell for tonight. Item 4.2 is approved leaves of absence, and Councillor Jennifer Navard has an approved leave of absence for the period of 12 August 2023 to 17 August 2023 inclusive. Item 5 is declarations of interest. I've received a declaration of interest from Councillor Nick Warland. It's an impartiality interest in item 10.1.1, as I was a social member of the Como Bowls Club during 2022-2023, and I'm declaring a similar impartiality interest as I'm a social member of the Como Bowling Club. Councillors, does anyone have any declarations of interest that they wish to make this evening? That's a no. Okay. All right, that brings us to item 8, which is presentations. Item 8.3 is deputations. And this evening we have one speaker who will have up to 10 minutes in total to address council. I'd like to welcome Mr. John McGrath of Como, and I understand that you're speaking for the officer recommendation. If you'd like to come to the microphone, the floor is yours. Welcome. Of course.
The Secretary of the Bowling Club is Helen Lowe, and she's done a lot of work on our submission. And I would like to say that we are actually supporting the city officer's recommendation. When I went online, I had to tap either support or oppose, and I thought, if I'm coming to seek clarification, so I pressed oppose, but I didn't mean it. So I apologise. We are grateful to the support we got from the city officers, and we're not opposing their recommendations. But what we would like to do tonight is just seek some points for clarification and a couple of points that we would like to explain to the councillors. Although the city officers are seeking approval for the full 1/3 contribution to our project, the club's application has been lodged in accordance with what we were told by the Minister for Sport back on the 29th of April this year, and that was that the CSRFF grant process was being streamlined and funding increased to $500,000, and the successful small grant recipients will now receive funding to cover up to half the project, up to a limit of $200,000. When we saw this, and I've only been president of the bowling club for about 4 months, the previous executive weren't that keen on having a synthetic green, but I've always believed that we need a synthetic green to get more use for the many people who are now coming to our bowling club for all sorts of recreational and bowling use. So we looked at it and we said that we could put in for 50%, we had two choices. We could just go for a synthetic green and nothing else, and we could have funded our third with the funds we have in fixed deposits. We've got 108,000 sitting there for this project. It's been sitting there for this project of a synthetic green on A green. But then we thought that that wouldn't get the job done because we need more. We not only need the synthetic green, but the surrounds of A green not in good shape. These are 70-year-old infrastructure that's been there for so long, and nothing really has been done. And the grass is quite uneven. It's a bit of a risk factor there with people walking out to bowl. People of all ages now come to our bowling club, and so we looked at, including in our submission, putting paving so that it would be a level surface at both ends of the green. So when people go out to bowl, they're bowling on a level surface, which you see at South Perth and Manning have got that. We unfortunately haven't got it, so we wanted to include that. So that's why we went for the 50%, and we put in also new awnings for shelter in the sun. The ones we use now are a bit old and frayed and not in the best of condition, and we thought that we could probably replace them with a fixed awning that would be a metal type structure that would be there for summer and winter and would last for a long time. The club's grant applications have been totally different projects. So, as I said, we've got the synthetic green, we've got the insulation of the brick paving, and we've got the sunshades. One of our issues that we did have was in the city officer's report on page 10, they mentioned a bit of history in that they say that our club has previously sought CSRFF funding for this project but was unsuccessful as the DLGSC considered these works as general maintenance. So it was assessed as a lower priority. For this reason, the city believes that this project component may not be funded by the DLGSC. Now, we want to raise this as an issue because these are new projects. It's not maintenance. These are, if you lift up grass and you put paving down, we don't think that's maintenance. If you and also the plinths at the end, they mentioned that the plinths and the surrounds of the green. The contractor who we have accepted, we have put forward his quotation for a new synthetic green. All that work, the plinths and at the end of the green, and the limestone at the end of the green, so you don't have the ground coming in onto your bowling green. That is all part of the quote for the synthetic green. The previous executive was looking at spending between 50 and 60,000 of our funds to do that work at both ends of the green, of A green and the other end of B green. And when I became president, I thought, well, why would we do that when we could do a better job? And by putting in a synthetic green, that would all be covered. So we would save the 50 to 60,000 that was going to be spent, and we could have a better job, and we would have kept the money that we had in reserve. So we would like to sort of say that where the officers say the city believes that this project component may not be funded, maybe we could have an addendum, but however the club believes none of this project will be maintenance, and that's our firm belief. It won't be maintenance. So that's just one issue. It should be noted that I've already mentioned the club's undertaking of that that's $50,000 to $60,000 project. It's also mentioned in the officer's report that the Como Bowling and Recreation Club is a small club. We do not deny that we're not a big club, but we are growing exponentially in the last few years. Our membership has grown from 109 members in 2021 to 406 this year. That's members. On top of that, last year we had 1,582 guests or community groups attend our bowling club to either bowl or that's barefoot bowls, some sort of celebrations. We've had wakes, we've had birthdays, and even team building meetings by some of the biggest companies in Perth. At Christmas time, we had Monadelphous and what was the other one? And Rio Tinto came to our club with 150 odd people for their Christmas parties because we have parking. And we also believe that, we're part of a precinct now that is probably one of the best sporting precincts in the city of South Perth, with the football and cricket played up on Ernest Johnson Oval, and it's such a beautiful setting. So we believe that we have a lot to offer, and we believe that to get a synthetic green, we will be able to cater for the many, many people in our community who now want to recreate. They don't all want to play bowls, or seriously bowls, but they will come and have a barefoot bowl. They want to come to our club to recreate, and we believe that we can meet those needs. For instance, we now have schools coming to our bowling club. The teachers bring 20 students and they bowl. And we have someone who gets out there and tells them all about bowling and how you should do it. Well, that's good therapy for young people who are doing their education. But if we don't have a synthetic green and we're relying on grass, our greens in winter are often shut down. Like today, there was no bowls. In the last few weeks, we've had quite a few days where we couldn't use our facility. We had a school contacted us from the country this year and said we would like to...
60 seconds left, Mr McGrath.
We'd like to bring our kids up for next year during May holidays. Could we book them in? And we couldn't take that booking because we couldn't be sure. So in closing, we do thank the city for what you've done. We thank you for what you did with the toilets and the kitchen, and we think that's given us something to work. We want to expand now and make our club even bigger and more a place where people will want to come, people from our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation, Mr McGrath. Councillors, do we have any questions for Mr McGrath about his deputation? Councillor Cridland. Special, I don't have a green light, so yes.
There we go, it's turned red. Is the Como Bowls Club the only one that doesn't have a synthetic green?
Yeah, we're the only club in the city of South Perth. South Perth has only got synthetic, and Manning has synthetic green.
So that's some disadvantage to you.
Well, it's not a disadvantage in terms of competing with those other clubs, but it's a disadvantage for us being able to offer an all year round surface for people to bowl.
Any other questions, councillors? No. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
Now, Councillor Cridland, welcome. I just thought I'd give you an opportunity. We went through the declarations of interest just before you came in, so I thought I'd give you an opportunity if you did have any interests to declare it now.
Well, I was a social member of the Como Bowls Club. I'm not sure if I actually have renewed this year, but I mean to if I haven't. I'm not sure that's an interest I need to declare, but I'm happy to tell everyone that's the case.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, that brings us to item 10 of the agenda, which is the draft August reports. So I'll hand you over to the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mike Bradford, to take you through the balance of the draft August reports.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Item 10.1.1 is the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, Community Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund Small Grants Program for 23-24. Application and city assessment. Each year, the Department and the DLGSC calls for applications for its Community Sport and Recreation Facilities Fund. They invite eligible community groups and local governments to apply for funding to assist with sport and recreation infrastructure projects. CSRFF applications must initially be presented to the relevant local government to request in-principle support of the project, including the financial contribution requested by the applicant under the CSRFF program. 2 external applications are presented for the current round for 23-24. That is the Manning Bowling Club, a bowling green synthetic conversion project, and the Como Bowling Club, a synthetic green conversion and plinth replacement project.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, do we have any questions for the administration on this item? Councillor Choi.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just wondering, following that deputation from Mr McGrath, whether the city officers have got any sort of response or anything they'd like to say about that, about anything that was said during that deputation, please.
Mr Gibbons, should I send that your way?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Choi, and through the chair. The city, the report is quite straightforward. It does support the funding. All it really has done is try to be a little bit more specific as far as if we were to rank them, how we have ranked them with 1 and 2. But certainly the sum of money at $226,000 to be considered in the mid-year review budget is still allowing for the city's participation in funding both of those clubs. So whilst I understand what Mr McGrath was saying, there's nothing in the report nor in our intention to deny that funding, given also that the final decision on this is not ours, it is actually the department's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Gibbons. Councillor Credland.
I may have misunderstood what Mr McGrath was saying. It seemed to me that the club was suggesting that you could ask in this particular round of CSR, I'll get the, CRFF or SF, whatever it is. It's not quite LGBTQI, but anyway, there's a number of letters there. In this particular round, the state government said that you can ask for up to half, is what I understood him to be saying, and that his suggestion had been that they asked for half be paid for by the state government, and then the city and the club go equal in the other half. And just when I look at the report on page 8, it seems to be a third, a third, a third. Did I misunderstood? I can't speak English, can I? Did I misunderstand what McGrath said?
Mr Gibbons.
Thank you, Councillor Cridlin, through the chair. He was right in that. That is called a development bonus. In our experience, the development bonuses are usually awarded to regional councils in the past. So whilst they might be lucky in getting up to $200,000, we've taken a more conservative approach of applying it equally as per their criteria for a third, a third, a third. So should they be able to get the full 200,000, that will reduce their contribution and our contribution, should the time come.
All right, so we're not locked into a third, a third, a third if they are lucky enough to get more than a third from the state government?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Thank you again, Mr Gibbons. Councillors, any further questions on this item? I think Councillor Choi was first there, and then Councillor Brenda Abrandis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just following up from that, my question and also Councillor Cridlin's question. In relation to the report and the potential submission to the department of local government, if this was to be approved by council, would the city, taking on board what Mr McGrath has said in his deputation this evening, look at amending some of that in terms of the wording around maintenance and those sort of things, if that would make a difference in terms of funding and the amount of funding, as Councillor Cridlin was going into in his question, for this project, for their project?
Mr Gibbons.
I don't think that would make much of a difference in the broader scheme of things. The department will undertake its own assessment of this. We've certainly in our report have been quite supportive of both of them, and we haven't really provided any negative comments to that extent. If the department sees some of the works that the club is doing as maintenance, I think that's their jurisdiction to make that determination. We certainly don't, because we are supportive of them, but that's for the department to decide, not us.
Thank you, Mr Giddens. Councillor Brenda Abrandis, a question?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. My question's been answered. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No. Next item, please, Mr Bradford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 10.2.1, review of actions from the Economic Development Plan 2021 to 2025. This report provides an overview of the status of the implementation of the Economic Development Plan and an opportunity for a midpoint review of the plan, which spans 2021 to 2025. An implementation update is provided in Attachment A. It's proposed the number of actions within the EDP be simplified for the next 2-year phase of implementation due to changing priorities and city requirements.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, do we have any questions on this item this evening? Councillor D'Souza.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify, so this precinct plan is the city's document, not DevWA's sort of document?
Ms Cale, can I send that in your direction? Or is that Mr Giddens?
Thank you, Councillor D'Souza, through the chair. The Economic Development Plan is a city document that was adopted by the city in September 2021. The actions within it are also within the city's remit. Some of the actions refer to third parties, and certainly the delivery of the Economic Development Plan is something that is delivered across all city business units, not only the Economic Development Unit. I'm a little bit confused by your question, where you might be getting confused with one of the actions.
I might clarify that. Sorry, Mr Giddens. So that's action 2.3, which is the precinct plan for the future of Tech Park. Whether that precinct plan itself is something that the city's doing, or that Development WA is doing with the city's help.
Mr Giddens.
Clarity on that.
Thank you for the clarification, Councillor, through the chair. No, that is something that the Development WA is doing and that the city is advocating for and working. We currently sit on a working group with the Town of Victoria Park, Curtin University, Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, JETC and Development WA. So that is being progressed by Development WA and will in turn run through its own consultation period in due course. It has not commenced nor funding been secured by Development WA as yet.
Thank you, Mr Giddens. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Knowles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have a question to do with action 3.5, develop policy and guidelines for the implementation of parklets. Have the parklets been successful in Main Street? Is my...
Mr Giddens, can I send that your way?
I think it's probably a combination of perhaps myself and Ms Amprimo, but certainly with regards to the success of the parklets, Councillor, there are varying levels of success with parklets. They were put in as part of the Connect South project, and I understand that they were put in, they served a dual purpose both as a cultural and heritage aspect because they were where the tram stops used to be. As such, the success of any parklet is always dependent on where it's located, and so long as it has suitable, I suppose, land uses that are adjacent to it that can spill out into it. These parklets have varying levels of success. Sometimes they are used on hot summer days, other times they're not used. They're slightly off-centre from any cafes or any restaurants. But yeah, so that would be my comment. They have varying levels of success.
Thank you, Mr Giddens. Ms Amprimo, anything to add? No. Okay. Any further questions on this item, councillors? Councillor Credland.
Sorry, not on this item, but I was just wondering if our audio streaming is working? No.
No, we are recording the meeting and I understand it will be posted to our website afterwards, but we're not live streaming at the moment. We have some sort of technical issues. Sure. Any further questions on this item, councillors? No. Okay. Next item, please, Mr Bradford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 10.4.1, Tender RFT 1 of 2023, the provision of leadership management and project management training for design and delivery. This report considers submissions received from the advertising of Tender RFT 1 of 2023 for the provision of leadership management and project management training. The report outlines the assessment process used during the evaluation of tenders received and recommends approval of the tender that provides the best value of money for money and level of service to the city. And I note there's a confidential attachment to this item.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, any questions on this item? Councillor Choi.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wondering, is this something that the city has undertaken tenders for before, or is this something new?
Mr Adams, can I send that your way?
We've certainly had a provider provide this service before. I don't know whether it was done via a tender or not, but this basically is for our diploma and certificate 4 in leadership and project management, and we run that. We generally run one course per year that goes from, say, September through to April, and usually probably around 15 or 16 staff participate in it. The last 2 times we've run it, it's been specific to leadership training, but we tend to gauge what interest there is in either the project management side or the leadership management training, and then run a course accordingly. So it is run over a number of months, and it is a course through registered training organisations where our staff do get a qualification out of it. So it is quite important to the career development of a number of our staff.
Thank you, Mr Adams. Councillor Choi.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and Mr Director Adams. Just following up from that question then. So this is included, I take it, in the current budget?
Mr Adams.
Yeah, so the funding is already in the budget, so it's in the learning and development budget, of which this year there was an allocation, I think, of $252,000 for across the city for all of our learning and development activities.
Thank you, Mr Adams. Councillors, do we have any further questions on this item this evening? No. Next item, please, Mr Bradford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 10.4.2, listing of payments for July 2023. This report presents the Council a list of accounts paid under delegated authority between 1 and 31 July 2023 for information.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, any questions on this item this evening? No. Next item, please, Mr Bradford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 10.4.3, proposed council meeting schedule for 2024. This report seeks council endorsement of the City of South Perth 2024 meeting schedule.
Thank you, Mr Bradford. Councillors, any questions on this item? No. Next item, please, Mr Bradford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Item 10.4.4, monthly financial statements for July 2023. The monthly financial statements are provided within attachments A through I, with a high level of analysis contained in the comments of the report.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on this item this evening? No. Okay. In that case, that brings us to item 12, which is motions of which previous notice have been given. That's nil. And item 15 is when we would ordinarily close the meeting to the public, but there's no need to do that because there's no reason to. Item 16 is closure. So before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance and participation this evening. I declare the meeting closed at 6:29 p.m. Thank you all and good night.